Hello, it's Blaze from the Otaku Empire tuning in. Hopefully everything is going beautifully for you, and if it's not, hopefully it goes beautifully for you in the near future. Manga. A fun pastime and or hobby for some, and a gateway to new series. It can also perhaps be an extension of a series you finished by making you want to read ahead, as was the case for Attack on Titan for me when Season 1 ended. Today, I want to talk about and mention some manga I've read recently that I think are a bit underrated. All of the stuff that I'll be covering will be a bit graphic, so if you don't like graphic violence in manga, feel free to click off the video. Also, there will be spoilers for all the mentioned manga in this video, but I'll make sure to let you know what manga I'll be talking about first by mentioning their title before going into any spoilers. Speaking of manga, first I'll start off with one called Pumpkin Night. Pumpkin Night is a horror manga about a girl named Naoko who is sent to a mental hospital but escapes after killing the nurses and doctors. It's after that where she adopts the name Pumpkin Night and goes out to get revenge on former friends who had wronged and bullied her, typically in the most brutal way possible, killing all those who get in her way. I should also mention that she was put into the mental hospital because of the bullies that wronged her. I found this as a recommendation from someone when I asked for manga that were like DeadTube, which I'll be talking about later. The story and character writing for Pumpkin Night is not something too special, with a lot of the people being cartoonishly evil, unlikable assholes without any real reason. Much like that of Redo of Healer, but without the whole grape minus the G, if you know what I mean. While the writing and story may not be what draws you in, some of the more horror/guru elements of it definitely might. The art is pretty good, especially in some of the more gory parts, such as when Naoko locked a girl into a coffin with a dead body and had her burnt alive in a crematorium, or when she killed the parents of the girl that was burnt alive, and listen to me when I say this, slit the father's throat with a bunch of needles that she also used to stab the mother's tongue and face with a bunch of times, tied the hands of the father to a medical bed and opened the guts of the now dead father, strew his intestines around and tied them to other parts of the room like fucking Christmas tinsel, cut both of the dead parents' head off, and put the severed heads within the father's now empty stomach, with the mother's eyes missing from the earlier mentioned stabbing with needles. And to top it all off like a cherry on top, she also put flowers in the neck hole area where the father's head was severed, while also having a bloodied message on the floor. Yeah, this manga can get pretty wild sometimes. The kills in this manga are mostly different a lot of the times, so it can provide a decent amount of variety when it comes to different death scenes. Overall, I really enjoyed reading this manga purely for the crazy messed up stuff that can happen, and if you really like gory manga like that, I definitely would give this one a shot. Next up is a manga called The Hero Who Seeks Revenge Shall Exterminate with Darkness. Quite a title it has. Much like the plot of Redo of Healer, this one focuses on a guy who wants to get revenge on all those who had hurt and wronged him, which in this case would be the various higher-ups and evil people within the kingdom he lived in. It's a fantasy manga and there are some bloody scenes from what I've read so far, but not anywhere near or close to the degree that Pumpkin Night was. The main character is pretty interesting in my opinion, and the way he gets revenge is different from that of Pumpkin Night and Redo of Healer. He does use the method of torture and killing. He doesn't go as far as to rape minus the G anyone from what I've seen so far, unlike, Kaoru from Redo of Healer. Last but not least, I want to talk about a manga called DeadTube, a personal favorite out of the mentioned so far. It's an interesting one. Unlike the others mentioned before, it's not a revenge story. Instead, it's about a video sharing website called DeadTube that functions much like YouTube in that you upload videos to gain as many views as you can, with a prize of 10 million yen for hitting number 1. However, there is both a twist and a catch. The twist is that basically any type of video is allowed to be uploaded there, so stuff such as kidnappings, torture, snuff films, grape minus the G films, suicide films, and more are allowed to be posted there, and are actually encouraged. The catch is that the person with the lowest view count is framed for all crimes recorded in all of DeadTube, as well as all expenses. If for some reason the person with the lowest view count were to die, then all crimes and expenses would be placed on their families instead. Quite the consequence. What doesn't help is that once you join DeadTube, you can't leave. So once you're part of it, it's ride or die. This manga, due to its nature, can get pretty bloody and dark throughout, with an example being an instance where a guy who wanted to commit suicide due to not loving anything is given things to love, changing him into a more hopeful person. Doesn't sound bad yet, right? But the thing is that right as they gained hope and a new sense of self, they were forced to kill themselves in the end anyway, making their death a bit more tragic. You're never really rooting for anyone, since people are committing heinous crimes in the name of a view count to avoid trouble, sometimes progressively getting worse and worse in what they do for the crimes, all for the sake of being number one. It's a fun read, and it's interesting to see what types of videos will be made in this story for the sake of hitting the number one count. The storytelling and character writing I think is about average, if not, I would dare say it's a bit decent. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I just wanted to talk about manga I've read recently that I thought would be underrated a bit. You can join the Empire today by burning the subscription button down below. This has been Blaze at the Otaku Empire, signing out and wishing you all a beautiful day.